So I would like to now call on Mr. Maurice Asielue, who is currently the Data Protection Officer for World Remit. He's also a lawyer, a certified information privacy professional with substantial data protection and information law experience. Maurice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sosa and Kede, and thank you for the privilege of giving this presentation. These are the kind of things we always like to support, and especially as it's very, very relevant to many of us in Nigeria. I used to be in the Information Commissioner's Office in 2005, and a lot of the data protection things then for the Data Protection Act 1998, I was fully involved in them. The concept of data protection is actually something that is it was almost culturally alien to Nigerians. I remember when I went back to Nigeria, I was the one that wrote the guidelines on the Freedom of Information Act and all that. So I was also engaged by NIMSI to consult with them on data protection. But I recall the first time I went to the bank, and many people who have gone to the bank in Nigeria will be familiar with this experience. When you go to the bank, then after paying a deposit, you had an exercise book in front of you where you had to write your name, your phone number, how much you deposited, and your address. And, I found it very, very strange because they will not allow you to complete you had to complete that book on the counter in front of everybody. So if somebody paid in ₦1 million, 2 million naira, you not only saw his phone number, you saw his account number, you saw his address, you saw his telephone number. So it did show that it was a very, very cultural shift in what is personal data. However, the world has changed, and data protection has become very, very valuable. Now, the key thing I said is very easy for us professionals who are used to this to just assume everybody knows data protection. So that's why I have limited my presentation to just telling people about data protection and about how we can protect a culture of vigilance whenever we handle personal data in any manifestation, while working from home, while our employers, and in our business. So that is going to be the focus of my data protection, because looking after the personal information of people who entrust it to us, whether as our customers or as our employees or as our parishioners, is very important. And there are certain rules that we must follow. Now, I'm going to be concentrating on the GDPR. That is the General Data Protection Regulation. As a global company that does business in over 75 privacy jurisdictions, and as the Global Data Protection Officer, I'm used to trying to ensure compliance with multiple jurisdictions. But what we have done in World Remit is to say, yes, the GDPR is the most stringent. So that is our framework, because generally, if you comply with the GDPR, you have complied with most of them. Of course, we have variations, regional variations. In Nigeria, we have the data protection regulations. In Ghana, we have not so much in most of the Francophone countries, but especially when you're doing business with the countries that have GDPR or high compliance regimes of data protection, say like in the United States, where you have a general data protection, which is the Graham-Billy Act, but some states have their own, like California. When you're dealing with Canada, Australia, Japan, South Korea, where you can actually go to jail. So these are the various rules you have to. But if you're in Nigeria or if you're in the UK, if the Nigerian data protection regulation mimics in a way the general data protection regulation. So if you're complying with that, you're almost complying with the GDPR. But if you have business in Europe, in the UK, then you will need to ensure there are high levels of compliance. And in the UK, we now have, it used to be Data Protection Act, but it's now called the UK GDPR. So these laws are helped to establish trust with people who give you. Why? Business reputation, to prevent financial penalties, and to prevent the possibilities of crime. Now, when you're working from home, or whenever you deal with data protection, you have to protect it, because there's negligence, human error. Breach can cause serious financial consequences, both for you personally and for your business. So basically, handling personal data with care is very important. Now, to understand the key need, because I don't want to really, if you don't know how valuable protecting personal data is, you will not be engaged in this. And I remember Esosa did say, somebody was saying, why data protection and all that. So the key understanding is to know three main things: what, who, and why. So what is personal data? Who are those that it applies to, and why? And then from there, we can now progress to have a good discussion. Because if you do not, if just like people who go into their attic, you see an old painting, and you take it to a roadshow, especially, you discover that old painting that you are almost about to throw away is worth $1 million. So if you do not know the value of what you have, you cannot protect it or treat it carefully. So let's start with a bit of the basics. What is personal data? Well, personal data is simple. It's just any information that can be used to identify a person. It can be ordinary, such as name, address, marital status. And by ordinary, it's not defined, but I'll say ordinary are just the kind of information we're happy to give on request. Somebody meets me, hey, guy, what's your name? Maurice Asielue. Are you married? Yes. So those ones, what's your phone number? This is my phone number. Then it can be the more sensitive type of personal data, which is the kind of personal data that if somebody asks you, you will say, why are you asking me this kind of questions? That ought to be in your mind. So for example, what's your bank account details? Hey, hang on. When did you see your doctor? So how's your health? Did you do a checkup? So ordinary and sensitive. These are just basic broad categorizations. And the more sensitive it is, the more you have to protect it. So I don't mind my name, but if I get a letter from my doctor, I will keep it under my box. My bank statement, I will not disclose it. So the more sensitive it is, the higher you have to protect it. Now, who are the actors in this world, in this film or stage of personal information? Well, first person is you, because you are the owner. You're the person that is either sharing the information as an employee or as an employer or as a parishioner. You are the one that actually owns your information. The next category are the customers, or when I mean customers, the other stakeholders, like for example, your parishioners or your employees, people who entrust their personal information to your business. Another person is you, the person actually, not because it's your personal information, but you are actually handling personal information that has been given to you as a trustee. When I mean trustee, I use that word trustee very loosely, not in the strict legal sense. Then the other people are the regulators. That is those people who regulate and enforce those data protection laws or rules. In Nigeria, you have NITDA. In the UK, you have the Information Commissioner's Office. If you are in the California, you have the various Attorney Generals. If you're in Australia, you have the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. If you're in Belgium, you have the APD, and Ireland, you have the DPC. So these regulators are also those that monitor it. And then finally, you have the courts. Now, when we're looking at data protection under these various laws like GDPR, the PIPEDA in Canada, you must know that household data is not part of personal data. So when you use household for personal household activities, it's not personal data, except it is used for professional or business activities. You may say, okay, how about my church? It's the names of my parishioners. We don't use a church for business. But a case said, no, it must be carried out in a personal, course of personal or family life. So generally, if you have the list of your parishioners, you put it on the internet, that's not covered. However, if you do have a CCTV in front of your house, protecting your house only, then that information will be covered. That information will be under the household exemption. Now, why is personal data important? I didn't know this before. You know, when I used to like buying clothes, and when you open your internet, you see register, we give you 20% off. You now, hey, Christmas has come early. You now register, put all your details, do this just to get that 20%. That 20% is the value of your information, because when you drop that information down to get that 20% discount, to get that 10% discount, to get that 5% discount, what you're doing is that you're opening yourself to a whole host of things. You have actually, that's the cost of the information to you, but except you use it, the information can be used for several purposes by the company. So your personal information is very, very valuable. And it is important because you have a right to determine who you will share it with. You have a right to expect that the people you give it to will take very, very good care of it. And it is also a fundamental human right, which is of such gravity and of such quality to be protected. You know, so that is the value. So when you say what is personal data, no, personal data is valuable, very, very valuable, because it can be used, sold off to people. I mean, I'm sure many of you will have that experience. You're in, I remember one time I was in Facebook and I clicked on an ad for a gym equipment. I just clicked on that ad. Before you know it, I'm getting all ads for gym equipment. How did I apply for it? No, it's because I gave Facebook my personal information. So when you see Facebook and wondering, oh, I'm reaching out to a SOSA, I'm reaching out to KD, I'm reaching out to my friends. It's not FOC. It's not free of charge. They know why, you know, they know why. We are allowing you to do this because we know what we are getting out of it. So your personal data is very, very important. And anytime you also get personal data, it is also important that you protect it very, very well. Because if people entrust their personal data to you and you do not deal with it well, you lose your business reputation, you can get fined, you can cause scandal. I mean, you can imagine if, for example, I always give this example, I speak to my, if my educational certificates were available free online, then I can't get away with many things. I told my children I was always first in class. Now, if my records were there for them to see my actual position, you can imagine how they will look at me when I come back home. Or you can imagine, will I be able to scold them when they took last? So, or if I went to the doctor and say, look, I have a headache, and that information is just disclosed. So personal information is very, very important. And it is important because not only is it a business asset, it's a corporate asset, it's a social asset, it is a universal asset. So if wherever you are, Lagos, Australia, wherever you are, once you're handling personal data, please treat it very carefully. And most of us come from a Nigerian background. And I'll tell you, the Nigerian data protection regulations are quite stringent. And you can feel they're just waiting for the one chance for someone to make a mistake. Before you know it, they're already on your case. And sometimes it may be for fines or penalties. So you've got to make sure you treat it, especially as the consequences may be very serious. For example, I give you and trust you with my bank account details, and you disclose it. You know the consequences. The consequences can be very serious. And protecting the personal data is a vital and serious matter for everyone. Everyone. You, your employer, if you're working in an office, protecting it for your employer, you, and every time you're a parishioner, you're a pastor, you are head of an organization, because you can be sued or fined. And under the GDPR, you can be sued up to 4% of your annual global turnover. And not just that, after you have been sued, the person who you have breached their information can go to court and sue you again. So it's a double whammy. And you can imagine your competitors who will be laughing at you and publicizing that, this man, they find him. So wherever we are faced with personal data, we have to take it seriously. There are occasions in the previous job where an employee negligently and stupidly, despite personal data training, disclosed data anyhow. That employee was fired. So it can have personal consequences, which we have to take very, very seriously. Now, for me, the golden rule of protecting data protection is simple. Do unto others as you like others to do unto you. If I give you my information, if I treat information like you treat it, then you're on the safe and narrow. If you give me, it's just like if you give me your Rolls Royce to drive, I will treat it with as much care as if I gave you mine. So whatever you deal with it, always ask yourself, if it was me, if Nami get this data, will I treat it anyhow? If my wife's medical certificate is outside, will I disclose it? If my bank statement, will I leave my bank statement in front of my house and nail my credit card or bank statement in front of my house? Everybody come and see? No. But don't forget, there are accidents. Accidents can happen. And yes, this is not a perfect world, but wherever you do, think about it. So, for example, if you are an employer, appreciate the value of it to your business or to your employer. If you're an employee, appreciate the value, because it is something that to be handled fragilely with tender, loving care. That's what I always say. Now, when dealing with it, just a few do's and don'ts when dealing with personal data. Try not to use unsecure Wi-Fi or any unknown network. So when you go to Starbucks, in those days that people are going to Starbucks, and you tap into that their general Wi-Fi, you're leaving yourself open because it's easy to break in. It's easy. So don't tap into any network you're not sure of. Try not to mix your personal email with your official email. Keep your business email separate from your official emails. Always work in a secure environment so you don't leave your computer unattended. I remember one time I was in one of these Costa or one of these places, and I was just doing some work, and I just said, let me just rush to ease myself. I just thought, just quick in and out. As I was running, luckily I had a Nigerian brother that said, my brother, this place, even we that are here, we put our belts. So you can imagine if I had, thinking that we just want to, what that could have been. In fact, it made me asking myself, Maurice, how can, and you're a privacy professional, if they are stealing your laptop, what are you going to say? So you shouldn't, complacency is the easiest way to lose your personal data. Also, do not open suspicious emails. There's the classic one, which we all get, especially we'll soon start getting them now. The inner revenue, you're due for a 55,000 naira tax refund. My brother, when government does not dash money anyhow, you cannot get 5,000 for nothing. So don't open it. Don't open it, spam it. It has happened to me where they told me, I was expecting something, you've got one big amount of money, or, those days of PPI, when you're getting those PPI, and I'll be praying for miracle to happen, and boom, I saw one miracle happen, but it didn't make any sense because the money they said they would give me was less than the money I had in that account. So what did I do? I just phoned up the people and called and confirmed that that was a spam call. So let us not be, I said, complacency is the Satan of data protection, is the antithesis of data protection. Now, another vital thing I need to talk about is when, and this is what I was saying, don't use personal for official. Now, and this especially happens, this is especially directed to employees. Do not use office information for personal purposes. It is illegal in the GDPR. And I said, if we use the GDPR as the framework, let us say it is illegal all over. And I'll give you a few examples. There was a police officer that when the man's daughter brought in a boyfriend, the man said, this man looks like somebody that smokes hemp and all those things. The man now went to use the police national computer to check up on the daughter's boyfriend. He was caught and jailed you might be working in a place, say you're working in the sales company, and you now use their phone because you want to set up your business. That is a data breach. Apart from the fact that based on some things your company may get involved, you will end up with a prison term. You will end up with a criminal record. So there are many examples of this. So some of the things, and when you're also handling data, another key thing is, as I said earlier, breaches can occur at any time. I've done it. It's 5 o'clock on Friday. You just want to leave because you're meeting somebody, you're going out for drinks, you're going out for that weekend, you want to send off that email, you open the email without thinking, you just put in especially like those who are in church, who have parishioners, they are sending information to customers. Instead of you to blind copy people, you just, without thinking, I beg, let me hurry up, send this email and move on. That jollof rice or that food, that wine. I just want to go and eat it quickly. You click on it, boom, you send it off. You didn't blind copy it. So all parishioners, all the people you are sending it, everybody has everybody's email. Now that is a data breach. So accidents do happen. And when those accidents happen, you have to report it as soon as possible. You either report it to the Information Commissioner's office, or if you even go to the Information Commissioner's office, and most regulators, they have a self-assessment on when you do. I don't want to go into too much details because I'm mindful of the time and I'm mindful that there may be questions that may be asked. But for companies dealing with personal data, the fines are getting bigger. Uber was fined 2.87 million for poor security. Facebook, 1.5 billion. Heathrow Airport, 60,000. British Airways were fined about 100 million. It's been reduced. That's the fine. But of recent, I'm now seeing adverts from companies telling you, oh, if your information was there, come and join us in our case. So you can see that that fine imposed by the Information Commissioner of British office is just the fine. There are people now that are going to sue them. And that's why we have to be careful, because the world of data protection is now coming to PPI standards, where you open your phone and you will see advertisements. Has your data protection been lost? If not, phone 120807, lost data protection, and we'll get back to you. So you have to be very careful when you handle it, because I will tell you, we deal with it. When I was in the ICO, we had many cases that I used to adjudicate when people who you did not expect will come and sue you for data protection or report you because they want compensation. So please always handle it carefully and report. If you're an employee, report it carefully. If you're dealing with it, report or seek data protection advice. Now, so the key thing is for me now, which was the purpose of this, is just to let you know how valuable data protection is. Now, Dr. Ito will continue on transferring it, but let me say briefly, just to lead up to her, the fact that we have data protection doesn't mean that we can send it off anyhow. Before you send off data to another place, you must make sure, so before you send data from the UK to Nigeria or to another place, you must make sure that those people have laws essentially equivalent to the laws in the UK. So there are certain protections for what they say international transfer of data. And these laws, regulations are put in place because, as I told you earlier, data is a valuable commodity. Data flows are moving left, right, center. Data is being sold everywhere. I was in Nigeria in October, November. I was working from home. I was working from Nigeria in the UK and connecting my office in the UK. Even for me to access my office email just like that is a data transfer. So there are various rules. So it's not as easy as that, but I don't want to overcomplicate this. If in doubt, as I said, always see a specialist. If in doubt, go to the Information Commissioner's office. And I'm ready to take any questions, but I just thought I should set the ball rolling and tell you that personal data is valuable to be treated with tender, loving care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maurice. That was very, very informative and educational. As Maurice said, it is very good to be vigilant. Personal data is much more valuable than gold, silver, diamond, you name it. You have to protect it on a personal and a business level. Maurice has talked about prior to GDPR 2018, it was culturally alien to us. He gave examples from Nigeria in terms of how forms were being filled and how you disclose your data. without even realizing the implication. Now, we should hold our data. That data is very, very valuable, so we should treat it with the utmost care. And the data is sensitive. You might take it for granted, but it's not being taken for granted. And the EU has standardized the process. And also in handling data, you have to be careful how you handle it and where you are sending the data to. And you have to also make sure that where you are sending it to, those countries or places have data protection laws in place. It's also talked about the implications for personal, for business, for corporate, for social, that it should be treated carefully. So you can't be too careful. He has given us enough warning in terms of handling of data.